Hey guys, it's Rowan here from Smart TV. Now today I've actually flown all the way down to Melbourne to find out an answer to a big question for you. Now what is that question? One of the things that I often recommend students to do when they're in high school, years 10, 11 and 12, is to jump on LinkedIn and to develop a LinkedIn profile to build relationships with companies. One of the questions I get though is it too early? Like I'm not working, I'm not a professional, I might not be having a job, should I even jump on LinkedIn? So what I decided to do was come down to Melbourne and speak to Alex Pirouz, who, according to Forbes magazine, runs the #1 LinkedIn training company in Australia. So there's no one better to ask but Alex. So Alex, if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, do you recommend a young person to start a LinkedIn profile and get using the platform?
Absolutely. I wish I was in a position that you guys are in at the moment, because I definitely would start a LinkedIn profile, not only because you have to get digitally savvy, but because nowadays when people search for you online, they're not going to resumes, they're no longer going to cover letters. Your digital footprint is the key to your success, whether you're going into a career, whether you're going into business. You just have to have a good, compelling LinkedIn profile. And the way you should really be viewing this is, where am I heading over the next year, 2, 3 years? What are some of the roles that I'm going to apply for? And then start asking yourself, how am I going to get those roles? And then build a profile based on that.
So then as an example, if you're even a year 10 student and you're thinking, well, I've got work experience, are you suggesting then that a student get on LinkedIn, treat it as a digital CV and resume, and then use it to start building relationships with companies that they might want to do work experience with?
Absolutely. So I said this 2 years ago. I said within 5 years, resumes and cover letters are done. They're done and dusted. And we can already see that happening, because if I'm an employer looking for someone, I'm not necessarily looking at their resume cover letter first. I'm actually looking at their online footprint. This is, moving forward. And so what happens is, if I go to your resume or LinkedIn profile and I see something that's outdated and you've got no footprint, and I go to someone who does and who has built a pretty good online footprint, then I'm more likely to have a conversation with them than you.
So in other words, it sounds like what you're really saying is that getting on LinkedIn is a really key way to differentiate yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
And I suppose particularly if everyone else is still using the piece of paper CV and you've got that really tight LinkedIn profile, it's going to be a key way to really get your foot in the door with work experience opportunities.
Yeah, and your resume is limited to text. So with LinkedIn, you can have links below your summary. So for example, your summary is like a cover letter, so to speak. You need to sell yourself, your journey, your career to date, and what your aspirations are. Underneath your summary within LinkedIn, you can have links. So you could have a video introducing yourself, sharing with people three things that are different or unique to you compared to another candidate. So there's so many different elements to having a good profile. Plus, someone who, what you guys will learn over time, whether it's your career or business, your network is your net worth. So when you're going to an employer, and if you're well connected in your industry and you show that you're keen to build networks, they're more likely to jump on board with you compared to someone who has zero connections in that industry.
And so in other words, then you can start that in high school. You can start building those connections with people in the industry you're interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So guys, you've heard it, not just from me, but from Australia's #1 expert. If you're in high school and you're thinking about not getting on LinkedIn, you really should. It's a critical way for you to stand out and differentiate yourself and build those relationships with employers so you can find work experience not just in high school, but in university and beyond. Thanks, Alex.
And can I just say something else before we finish off? So there's this, in internet marketing terms, there's this thing called TMOT, the moment of truth. So nowadays, people will search for you online, let's say Google, Bing, whatever system you use. And then what happens is, based on what they see on the first page, they'll make a decision and a perception of who you are. Then they'll judge you based on that perception, and then they'll act accordingly. So if that judgment is based on no links and a Facebook page that's out of date or you're sharing inappropriate stuff on there and you haven't updated those settings, then you're not really going to have a good first impression. And in today's business world, your first impression can either be your best or last, and you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression. So yeah, you've now heard it from 2 people, and I guarantee you speak to recruitment companies and companies that you're about to get hired, 100%, they are all leaning towards LinkedIn compared to an average and standardized sort of CV and cover letter.